In this video, I'll explain what I do and techniques I use to shoot long range at 1,000 yards. And first thing is selecting a good rifle, and hard to go wrong with Remington 700. I use a 5R Gen 2 stainless in 308, but I also have a Ruger American Predator, which is like half the price, and it shoots just as well, if not better. And that's in 6.5 Creedmoor. So next thing will be caliber selection. So I'll move on to that. So next is caliber selection. Right now the trend is like 6.5 Creedmoor, and it's really good. Like hard to go wrong shooting long range with a 6.5 Creedmoor or 7mm Remington Magnum. But I like the good old 308, and a good round factory loaded ammunition is the M118LR 7.62. It has the 175 grain Sierra Match King bolt tail hollow point bullet, and it shoots really well. And for long range, you want a heavier bullet. It's less affected by wind, and it really flies better. So Sierra Match King's hard to beat. And M118LR hand load, 175 grain Sierra Match King. And next is the scope selection. And as far as bases go, it would be good to go with a 20 MOA base to give you more elevation adjustment. But I went with a Leupold 0 MOA base with 4 to 12 by 40 Vortex Diamondback Tactical that I got on sale. It was like $200, and it has like 70 MOA of elevation, and that was enough to shoot out to 1,000 yards without holding over. So yeah, you don't have to spend like $3,000 on a scope to shoot 1,000. These scopes go for like about $250, and I have the Vortex rings on them. And just make sure you Loctite it, torque it down to spec, and then go sight it in. And it's also good to level your scope with your action. This is a Wheeler setup, about $60. So good, and it works also. So you want to make sure your rifle and yourself as a shooter, you can shoot at least 1 MOA at 100 yards, which is roughly a 1-inch group. So as you can see here, I shot a 0.8-inch group. This was at 95 yards, so still sub MOA. So, and that's good enough to shoot out to 1,000 yards. And I zero it at 100 yards. That makes the mat easier when you have to dial up for distance. So that's how I do it. And it's always good when you sight in to use the rest, so you kind of take away human factor. So I use a Caldwell Matrix. It's a good cheap rest for about $50 from Cabela's. And a good ballistic app to use is the Strelok Pro, and I downloaded it from the App Store. And you can put in your rifle, your they actually have tables or charts, or actually just store data for the a lot of different cartridges, and you can just load it into the app, and then it'll spit out, if you don't have a chronograph, and it'll spit out the ballistics, and it'll give you a good baseline for when you're shooting out to distance. And so you just put in all your data, and it'll tell you how much MOA to dial up your scope for your given yardage, and it puts you pretty close. So I like that app. Okay, elevation is 37.25 MOA, 1004 yards. And 0.25 right windage. And this is a vital tool, um, because I self spot. I use a phone scope adapter. It mates a iPhone 7, one of my old iPhone 7s, to a Pursuit 20 to 60 by 60 spotting scope. It was only like $50, I think, from Cabela's, but footage comes out real. It's really nice, and I can use it to make my shots, and I review my shots after to see where I'm hitting. So it's a really good setup, a cheap setup. And I use a Predator MTM PS2-11 shooting table. It's like $70 from Amazon, and it's a good cheap table. It works. And this is the setup with the shooting table, bipod, and I use a midway rear bag rest for the rear of the stock, and don't forget to wear eye protection and ear protection as well. And you want to make sure that your target has a backstop and no skyline shots. So what I do first is I take 2 shots and see where they end up. Sometimes I can't spot on my own, so I use the phone scope and check the footage after I shoot. So like you see, the first shot here is a little high and a little left, and I'll take another shot and try to be consistent on the trigger pull and the breathing, and you should know all your fundamentals for shooting, so just concentrate on that. Can't really preload the bipod because of the plastic table, but you gotta make do. So just try and get off a good squeeze, and pretty much the same place it landed, so you kind of make your adjustments off of that. And just don't forget the 4 rules of gun safety. Treat guns as if they're loaded, and never let the muzzle cover or point the gun at anything you don't wish to destroy or shoot. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are on target, and be sure of your target and what's beyond. And this is how it goes when you put everything together. As far as my breathing, I try to exhale and hold my breath on like halfway through my exhale, and trigger squeeze. You want to just don't jerk the trigger, just give it a steady squeeze, and you should follow through, like keep pulling. Sometimes I don't do that all the time. I gotta work on that, but it helps. It helps for a better shot if you do the follow through. So, yeah, and that's what it looks like.